Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Before we get started in talking about the fight, now that the opportunity has come back around, thank goodness. Well, how are you feeling in these last weeks heading into the fight?
Anxious, very anxious. We're wrapping up camp, only 2 weeks out. Just getting real anxious, ready to go in there and fight, ready to travel to Mexico and just feel the atmosphere, feel the environment that I'm about to be in. I'm blessed. I'm happy. I'm really looking forward to taking advantage of this opportunity.
Mhm. A great opportunity is you enter the fight undefeated. And although the fight didn't happen previously in April, you had an opportunity to see Jaime fight against Gabe Rosado in the meantime. When you look at that fight, if you watched it, what do you think of his style? Has it evolved from when you first became aware of him? Is it the same? Has it elevated? What did that fight show you about Jaime as you prepare for the fight between the two of you?
Gabriel Rosado is a tricky, tough veteran who makes people work. And I've definitely seen some growth from Jaime from usual fights when I've seen him. Jaime's a strong fighter. He comes forward. He's got that Mexican style through and through. He's throwing a lot of punches coming forward. He's mean. I seen the fight. I feel like he did what he was supposed to do. He made a good showing. And I'm just excited that it's my turn.
Mhm. As I did in a deep dive, I haven't had the pleasure of talking to you before. I started looking around and I watched some interviews of yours and looked for social. And you seem to have a very kind of old school approach to things. There's not a ton of social media. You're low key a family guy, and you're training with Barry Hunter, who also has that reputation to be a real old school, real sensible. How would you say your styles are meshing with each other? Is it smooth transition? How has that been with the two of you?
Oh, it's been very smooth with Barry Hunter. I knew Barry Hunter ever since I was 10 years old when I first started boxing. I was in a different gym, but always knew of him, always spoke to him around the fight time. I've been to a few US trips, France and Armenia, which Barry Hunter was chosen to be the USA coach. And he's been on different nationals as my coach too. So me and Barry, we already had previous chemistry during the amateurs. And I like his coaching style, I like what he's all about. He challenges me, he pushes me. And you're right, he does have that old school approach to it. Um, and it just messes with me. I'm laid back kind of dude. I don't really get into the social media that much and stuff like that. I'm just working and training. So, man, for me and Barry, man, everything has been great. The whole team that he has been meshing very good.
Mhm. You've been professional for 24 fights now, but as you mentioned, you do have that amateur experience where you traveled and you got to go to different places in the world, see different styles. What would you say during that time as an amateur, probably the time between where your amateur career came to an end and your professional career began? What are some things that you brought over from the amateur system that have helped you as a professional? Because some people say, oh, you have to change your whole style up when you become a pro because it's so different from competing as an amateur. But what's something that you brought with you that you think still helps you now?
Just the ability to, as an amateur, you come across so many different styles and so many different types of fighters. These tournaments you might fight 5 times in a week. So being able to adapt and be a comedian in some sense to to adapt to your opponents and to do different things that may affect your opponent in different ways. You might fight a boxer one night, you might fight a brawler one night, you might fight just a dude who's really, really awkward, but he hits hard. There's just so many things, different styles and different things that goes in with amateurs that I think it helps me because I done fought so many types of different fighters and the pros, and I feel like my amateur background just helped me prepare to face these different types of fighters. Some guys can't fight boxers, or then some guys can't fight brawlers. They have to fight a specific type of fighter. But I believe that a part of my skill set and my style, I'm able to adapt and fight with any type of fighter.
Mhm. I was watching your interview that you did with Jess during the pandemic time, and you had mentioned that you really love to watch, old school fights. You love Tyson and Roy Jones and Lennox Lewis, bigger guys, quite a
Yeah.
bit bigger fighting at heavyweight. Why do heavyweight fights appeal to you more than say fighters from that era that are closer to your own weight? What do those fights do for you?
Lennox Lewis. First, Roy Jones is probably my favorite fighter, so I watched a lot of Roy Jones. But Lennox Lewis, Roy Jones, just the boxing ability that they possess. You know, a lot of fans, a lot of people are drawn to the hard hitting stuff, the knockouts and stuff like that. But I feel like I enjoy more of the sweet science of, you know, the skill, the technique, the angles. And I feel like Lennox Lewis, even though he was a heavyweight, he was knocking people out. He used his jab, he used angles, he did stuff to put his opponent in position to get the knockouts, and that's the stuff that I really appreciate.
Mhm. In your previous fight, we've seen your power on display, but in the fight against Falcao, we got to see some different looks, some different styles, more boxing technique. Was that a defining fight for you, you think, over the course of the 24 fights that you had that really got to tell the story of who Demetrius Ballard is?
I believe that fight opened more eyes to the boxing I guess aficionados and people who actually watch boxing, my peers. I think that that fight opened eyes more to me as a boxer because Falco being an Olympian, a bronze medalist, he was favoring that fight too. You know, people thought he was going to be able to box circles around me, but me actually thinking I won the fight, I thought my style and I thought I did enough and I dominated the fight to get the decision. The judges seen it a different way. But I believe that that fight did open up eyes that people may thought that it wasn't that much to me to my game, but open up eyes to say that it's more to me than just, you know, throwing punches coming forward.
Right. And then following that, speaking of punches coming forward, so originally when this fight was going to happen, you were an opponent who came in last, but then you suffered an elbow injury. When you suffer an injury as a fighter, I think about like if I burn myself on a stove, it makes me, a little scared to touch hot things again. So when you recover from an injury, when you do a sport like boxing, what are those first days like of testing the arm back out again? What happens in the mind of a fighter after you've suffered an injury like that? Because it's very serious because of where it is. What are those days like coming back into the gym? What was it like for you?
Just I was with Barry Hunter then, and just we both agreed that we just gonna ease our way into it, testing it out. Mentally, I was there. I felt like mentally that it would be healed, and I would be good. So, mentally, I really ain't had no problems, no worries, nothing like that. Just physically, my elbow being able to take the pounding and the impact, the punch and stuff, how it was before the I suffered the injury. So, it came in, eased my way into it, and about it was an injury that lagged a little bit longer than expected, but once it got there, we went full out, full throttle.
Mhm. When I talked to Jaime earlier in the week, I asked him what he saw in you as a man, as a fighter across the ring, and he expressed a great deal of respect for you, of what you've accomplished, and your fighting style. He had a lot of respect for you. Same question for you, when you look at him and his style and where his career has grown from, what do you see in him as a man and as a fighter?
I've been watching. I'm a fan of boxing first, so I've been seeing Jaime on the zone for probably the last 3 years. Once he was at 54, he's a strong fighter. He comes forward. He has a mean demeanor about himself. He's a good fighter. I watch his fights. When I know Jaime fighting, I tune in because I know it's going to be a high impact fight. I seen him in California for the last fight, November 13th. He carried himself very well. Nothing against the guy. Feel like he's a great fighter, good guy. I have nothing bad to say.
Mhm. And on February 19th, when you two meet, in your mind, what does a win open up for you? Obviously, this is for an intercontinental title. The belt holder in your division is Demetrius Andrade. So the win obviously furthers your ambitions of being a champion, et cetera, et cetera. But in your mind, what is ideal? Does this fight a victory lead to for you?
At least it solidifies that the 18 years of this of me being involved in this sport, of the blood, sweat, and tears, sacrifices, everything, my family sacrifices, everything was worth it. It's everything. It would be everything to me. It would be the springboard to the long term goals I have in this sport, with becoming a world champion, unifying, and then becoming an undisputed champion. So this is everything for me. Everything, I feel like everything from the start of my amateur career to my pro career was all leading up to this moment. and I'm just ready to take full advantage and go take it.
Mhm. And one last question, fighters dream of, well, not all fighters, but you in particular want to have the respect of your peers to leave your legacy on the sport. If you could have a co-sign from 3 living fighters right now to say, you know what, Demetrius Ballard is the truth. This is a real kingpin coming up in the sport. Whose 3 co-signs would mean the most to you?
3 cosigns right now.
Hmm.
Andre Ward, mm, Andre Ward, Lennox Lewis. If Emmanuel Stewart was still alive, it'd be Emmanuel Stewart too.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, it's so many people I respect with their knowledge of the game. All the aficionados and even current bosses now that's fighting. So really, man, this fight is really just to show everybody to co-sign, everybody to know that I'm that dude.
All right. Well, I wish you, brother, the best of luck on February 19th. It's going to be a very, very exciting fight. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I appreciate your time. Have a
Oh,
great rest of your camp, and February 19th.
yes, man. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
You too.